Hey everybody, it's Robot here from Vespa Motorsport and ScooterWest.com. So today I'm going to do a vintage Vespa retro review on, once again, a 1951 Vespa. Not this one. Let me show you the real thing this time. So the real McCoy, the 1951 Vespa 125 V31T. And this belongs to the owner of Vespa Motorsport and founder of ScooterWest.com, Alex Cohn, and it's heavily accessorized, and later in the video I'll go over some of the fun accessories that were added back in the day to this scooter. It comes in as a 3-speed manual transmission. As you can see, it's got the swan style handlebars here and the twist grip like any other shifting Vespa. 3 speeds, manual clutch. Has a top speed around 70 kilometers per hour, which is around 40-45 miles per hour is the top speed on it. Weighs in just under 200 pounds, about 85 kilograms. But this is what Vespa had to offer in 1951 and pretty much in 1952 with little change. It's pretty much the last of its era. The Faro Basso with the fender, the light on the fender. So I think Faro Basso is is low, and lighthouse, so low light. In English, we typically refer to them as a fender light. Shortly after, I think in 54, pretty much all the headlights were up on the handlebars. So Alex, how did you obtain this scooter?
This actually I bought from a Christian at Bar Italia. He's like a premier restoration, vintage Vespa restoration shop. He'd had it in there for like years. It was actually owned by a celebrity. He actually was on Reno 911, did a lot of voice acting and stuff. So it kind of came with a little heritage. I mostly was attracted to it because it was the same model they used in Roman Holiday. So it's the same one that Audrey Hepburn ran around. So it's just basically like, your classic Vespa. I mean, this is the bike, a fender light. These were never officially imported to the United States, so there are very few of them here, so it's kind of cool to actually own them. This one is an older Italian restoration, so it's by no means, concourse or fully restored properly, but it's nice. It presents very nicely. It does run. It doesn't have any gas in it now because we drained it, but yeah, it's a really neat little bike, very fun to ride. Like you said, not a powerhouse, it does 45 miles an hour, it's only a 3-speed. But no, it's a cool little bike, and this particular one does have some cool accessories you're pointing out. The Speedo was actually an accessory item. This is from Velia. They didn't really come with the Speedo originally, it just had a clamp here. This one's kind of faded out a little bit, but it is original period Vespa accessory, which you had to pay extra for. You had to pay, back in the day, this was probably like $10 or something, or a few thousand lira or something. The horn cover, little chrome horn cover. I'm not sure if it was an Olma one or not. They made a lot of the period accessories for Vespa, but that was an accessory item. These hubcaps, these were an accessory that fit on there. And I'm not sure if they're Olma or not also, but back in the day, even Copini made stuff, and Vigano and some other companies. This also has the passenger foot pegs, the fold out, and all these accessories are like extremely rare because they just trying to find them, especially original ones. They do make some reproduction stuff, but all the one on this bike's all original. The extra pinion seat with the handrail, and it's kind of neat because it's kind of the pinion seat that matches the front seat. A lot of times there was a little square one, and this is actually kind of the more contoured saddle seat, which is kind of very rare, especially for the handlebar bikes. The spare tire mount. This is kind of a little different than some of the other spare tire mounts. They had a little higher up ones. This is kind of the lower down one, which I way prefer this one because it's just
very continental looking.
Yeah, exactly. It's super cool, and it has the other hubcap on it. The taillight's actually even an accessory because when you had the spare tire there, obviously the original taillight wasn't on there, so that's an accessory item as well. So this thing's like pretty well equipped with some very period accessory items and some other cool little touches. So what makes up the engine on this robot?
All right, yeah, I'll show you how the engine is accessed, just like any other shifting Vespa, located on the right side. These had a swing up cowl that's on this pin right here, so you could swing it up and access it. You always got to push the Kickstarter down, and the motor is definitely the very early generations of a piston-ported mild engine. Kind of the original 1946 Vespa, this is pretty similar. There wasn't too many changes that they made throughout the years, other than this is 125cc versus the 98cc. And you can see the shroud only covers part of the cylinder right here, all made of aluminum. These pieces are aluminum. By 1959, Vespas were in full production quantities and very standardized, but in the 40s and 50s, they pretty much were kind of, it was their teething period for the engines. They made a lot of little changes to perfect the engine, and shortly after this, they had the 10-inch Grand Sport, the VS1, the GS150. That was their first production high-performance Vespa. Alex has one of those on display here as well. Someday I'll do a review of that scooter. But back in the early 50s, they were all just pretty much 40 mile an hour, 125 3-speed scooters with 8-inch tires. And I'll show you something that's pretty neat. This frame is heavily sculpted. I mean, that was a lot of work, how they stamped all these pieces. The idea being is you could take this tin off, and it's only 3 bolts, and you can pull the cylinder head off. And back in the days when the fuel and the oil weren't that great of quality, it was probably something you had to do frequently as a tune-up, is to decoke the top end or the head, or service the piston rings. You may be wondering where the carburetor is. Well, the muffler is kind of in the traditional spot, kind of underneath, but you open up this little access door. And even modern Vespas have a little access door. It's nothing close to the same access of what these scooters had with the carburetor, and pretty much had a nickname here in English. It's carb in the box, because the carburetor's essentially in the frame and in the box. So you got the air filter here. You got a side draft 17 millimeter Del Orto carburetor. This fuel tap here, you're wondering why there appears to be a shot glass in there. Well, like I suggested, the fuel back in the early days was not that great, and this is called a sediment bowl, and it would trap the sediment much like a sink trap would, trap whatever heavy objects. If you put sand in your kitchen sink, it probably would just sit in the trap. Well, this is essentially a trap for the fuel, and it traps any heavier parts before they make it to the carburetor and through the filter. So very different compared to Vespa's 1959 and later. So underneath the rider's seat, of course, you got the access to the gas tank, and it's a very small fuel tank. I think it's about 5 liters, so that's a little over a gallon of capacity. These were pretty thrifty on gas. Probably still was under around 100 miles range. You may be wondering what this lever is here. Well, this is the choke, and when you start an older engine with a carburetor, you need to enrich in the fuel to get it to start when it's cold. So pretty much as you're kick-starting it, you'd reach under here and pull this lever up to choke the carburetor so the engine would start cold. There is a little bit of storage on the scooter, no lock of any sort. You open that right up, and you pretty much have your left side cowl as completely full of storage here. There's also the spring where you could put a rag or some tools underneath that little spring right here. No battery on this model. It's completely alternating current. Typically these models just had a very dim headlight and a tail light, and oftentimes a brake light was an optional accessory for scooters of this period.
Well, hey, thanks. I hope you enjoyed that little review of my little prize jewel here of our little Vespa collection. And thanks, Robot, for reviewing it and going over it for people. So if you're looking for one of these, a little tough, we do have some parts available on scooterwest.com, and even for these older bikes. The bikes themselves are definitely a little harder to find. Like I said, they're never really officially imported in the United States with the Faro Bassos. But if you do get one or have one, let us know. Give us a call, and we can definitely help you out. Or check out our website, thescooterwest.com. So thanks again, Robot. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, thanks for watching, and look forward to reviewing more vintage Vespas, either as a retro review or doing repairs on such Vespas. Thanks again. Consider subscribing if you haven't subscribed yet.